Hi, friends. It's Deanna Williston with Our Blooming Catholic Life. And I've had some easier read books on lately, so I thought I'd review a classic Catholic book, The Rule of St. Benedict. This was one of those books handed down to me from my dear friend Nina. Please pray for the repose of her soul. And I've just never gotten into it. My son also studied it in college, the history of vocations. I don't know that I've ever opened it. I'm a secular Franciscan. Why would I open up the Benedictine rule? But I am taking classes from the Benedictines right now and getting to know more of them. And yeah, maybe I should at least peek inside here. So let's give it a little peek. And also, our last book review was on Holy Moments, which is kind of like a movement of its own. And maybe there's some things they're doing in their life. So maybe this has ideas of things to do for your life. Maybe it's a little bit different than the other one. I don't know. I just thought I'd get in there. This is edited by J. Connor Gallagher. Introduction by Abbot Placid Solari, OSB, by St. Benedict Press, Charlotte, North Carolina. Who else would you expect? The scripture texts are taken from the New American Bible. Okay. Printed and bound in the United States of America. It's very white paper. Very white paper. I don't know if you can see that. Again, it's a small book. If you don't watch my reviews in order, you didn't see me do this already. I used it as a comparison book. It's roughly just a little bit smaller than the 4-volume Liturgy of the Hours. And the book we reviewed last week was Holy Moments. It's just a smidge smaller, but probably thinner as well. Here's our Holy Face Confraternity book, which is the same height but skinnier all around. So let's get in here, see what else is. I want to tell you that one of the books has page numbers in the outside upper corners, easy to find things that way. It has the title of the book on the left side and the name of the section you're in on the right. Again, that makes it handy to read. It's pretty easy to see when a new thing starts. For one, it's up there, but it's not super bolded. It's not like crazy when something new begins. It's a usual format for a rule, although the current format for the secular Franciscan order starts a new page whenever there's a new part to the rule. Let's see if there's any appendix of any kind. I doubt there would be, but nope. I mean, technically there is. There's one little Bible verse after the words "the end," so it does not appear to be anything else. Nope, just the end of chapter 73 of it. So, just bam, it ends. Their table of contents is a number of pages. I'm letting you know that now. Introduction, editor's note. Then there's a prologue of our Most Holy Father St. Benedict to his rule. We have one in the secular Franciscan order as well. This is interesting. It's quite a different rule from ours. This one starts out chapter 1, the different kind of monks. Chapter 2, the kind of man the abbot should be. Chapter 3, calling the brothers for counsel. Chapter 4, the instruments of good works. These chapters could be as small as 1 page, and the biggest one I've seen so far is like 7, so they're not huge. Chapter 4, the instruments of good works. Chapter 5, the obedience of disciples. Chapter 6, silence. Chapter 7, humility. Chapter 8, the divine office at nighttime. Chapter 9, how many psalms to say at the night office. That's a whole chapter. Chapter 10, how to celebrate the night office in summer. Chapter 11, how to celebrate vigils on Sundays. Chapter 12, how to celebrate lauds on Sundays. Chapter 13, how to celebrate lauds on ordinary weekdays. Well, this gets pretty detailed. At what seasons the Alleluia should be said. I'm going to skip ahead to the ones that aren't liturgical. 19 is the order and discipline of singing. Then reverence at prayer. Deans of the monastery. How the monks are to sleep. This is very detailed. Excommunication for offenses. How to excommunicate. More grievous faults. It's odd to have right after excommunication. You think that would be before. Those who associate with the excommunicated without the abbot's permission. How the abbot should care for the excommunicated. Those who do not improve after multiple corrections. Whether the brothers who leave the monastery should be allowed to return. How to correct children. The kind of man the seller of the monastery should be. The goods of the monastery. whether monks should have anything of their own. Wow, this is a very detailed way of life. Sorry, I should keep saying it. Whether all should equally receive what is needed. The weekly servers in the kitchen. The sick brothers, old men and children. The weekly reader. The quantity of meat, the quantity of drink. When the brothers should eat. No one may speak after compline. That's explicit in the chapter title, but you could read it if you want. Yeah, that's a one-page chapter. I wonder if it's just that one line. Let's peek ahead to page 64. Is that just one sentence? No, it is a whole paragraph. Okay. It's pretty self-explanatory, though. Chapter 43, those who come late to the work of God or to the table. Chapter 44, how to make satisfaction after being excommunicated. Interesting that that's so far removed from the other sections on excommunication. Those who commit any fault in the oratory. Those who make smaller offenses. Making known the hour for the work of God. Daily manual labor, the observance of Lent. The brothers who work at a great distance from the oratory or on a journey. The brothers who do not go far away. The oratory of the monastery. How to entertain guests. Whether it is lawful for a monk to receive letters or presents. The clothes and shoes of the brothers, the abbot's table, the artificers of the monastery, how to receive brothers to religion, the sons of nobles or the poor that are offered, priests who desire to dwell in the monastery, monks that are strangers and how they should be received, priests of the monasteries, the order of the community, the election of the abbot, the prior of the monastery, the porter of the monastery, brothers who are sent on a journey. If a brother is ordered to do impossibilities, no one should presume to defend another in the monastery. No one should presume to strike another. The brothers should be obedient to each other. The good zeal which monks should have. The whole observation of perfection is not contained in this rule. And that brings us to page 101. They open with a quote from Galatians 6:16. Peace and mercy to all who follow this rule. What does it end with? I feel like it was also Galatians. Yeah, it's the same quote. Nicely played. Let me get a drink quick and we can look inside the book. Again, it's a small enough book. I know a Franciscan friar. Oh, here I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I've never done this with my sweatshirt. My hoods are not that big or up that far, but Franciscan monk could easily slip this in his hood. I don't know. Do Benedictine monks have hoods? Now I don't remember. But if they did, they could probably slip it in there. I wonder if they have all the secret pockets that the Franciscans have. Not really secret, but they have a lot of pockets. Let's look at the introduction. In the early part of the 6th century, St. Benedict wrote his monastic rule. Since then, it has served as a guide for countless monks and nuns seeking holiness in their daily lives. Okay. Sorry, I had to do something quick. In their daily life. A myriad of others have drawn precepts for the spiritual life from its pages. St. Benedict's intention was not to sketch out a new and innovative approach to religious life. Rather, he took the monastic tradition he had himself received and distilled it into a way of life accessible to ordinary people and made it flexible enough to be adapted to very different times and places. Now, you're going to note, if you are Franciscan or follow Franciscan history at all, the rules of St. Benedict was the rule of many of the convents where sisters were in the time period of Francis and Clare. Clare, however, wanted the additional rule of poverty, and she wanted access to the friars. She felt they were her spiritual brothers and fathers, and that they needed to minister to the cloistered nuns. And it was very important to her on those points. She very much refused the rule of St. Benedict for her convent. And so we do have that history to start with. Why? Because this does not seem to include poverty. We could actually look that up. That was in here. About whether they could... Hold on, I may sneeze. Pardon me. There we go. 54, I guess. different orders of religious sisters in the time of Clare needed very much reformed. And what was happening, what Clare saw happening, was people entering into the convent with servants, and they still had all of their money and could bring in many of their goods in with them. And she did not feel that that led one to a life of prayer and poverty, as entering in as the spouse of Jesus who was born poor. So that did not work for her and her spirituality. Now, was it probably a necessary reform to impose this rule on a lot of those silliness going on in the convents? Yeah, probably. So let's look at chapter 33 quick. It is most important that one particular vice be cut away from the monastery by the very roots, namely that no one presume, without the abbot's permission, to give or receive or hold as his own anything whatsoever, not even a book, a tablet, or pen, or anything else. This is because the brothers are men whose very bodies and wills are not in their own power. They will receive all that is necessary from the father of the monastery. Neither can they keep anything which the abbot has not given or allowed. All things should be held in common, as it is written. No one claimed that any of his possessions was his own, Acts 4:32. If anyone gives into this most wicked vice, let him be admonished once or twice, and if he does not amend, let him be subjected to correction. Now, you could say, so they do have a rule of poverty, but here's the thing, it does leave it at the discretion of the abbot. And so if in the time of Clare that was a problem, that the abbesses were permitting that, then that would be her problem with it. Okay, so let's jump in here. So she wanted it more explicitly in her rule. I apologize for not saying that out loud. Not just with the abbess' permission, but that she wanted it very explicit, the rule of poverty. St. Benedict's principal concern was for coming to the monastery is that he truly seek God. He described the monastic community as a school for the Lord's service. Although he does not wish to establish a harsh or burdensome way of life, he knows that most of us benefit from a certain measure of discipline. He does not hesitate, therefore, to prescribe a little strictness in order to amend faults and safeguard love. It is love, in fact, which forms the guiding theme of Benedict's entire rule. To this end, he counsels great prudence and instructs the abbot to allow the strong to have something to strive for and the weak nothing to run from. In order to foster growth in love throughout the entire life spent in the monastery, St. Benedict sets up a structured and balanced lifestyle, which has given rise to the motto characteristic of Benedictine life: work and pray. His prayer is drawn from the very wellspring of Christian life, namely the liturgy and the Bible. Thus, the monk is immersed in the liturgy of the hours and the daily meditative reading of scriptures. The rhythms of monastic life vary with changing seasons and are centered liturgically around the great feast of Easter. The tenor of the life found in St. Benedict's rule can be summed up in these three virtues of obedience, patience, and humility. Obedience is perhaps the central virtue. Each monk vows obedience to God by accepting the demands of monastic life, and God's will is mediated to him through the abbot and his confreres. Patience is the fruit of charity, as the monks are exhorted to bear most patiently one another's infirmities, whether of body or character. Finally, monastic life brings one to humility, that is, a truthful knowledge of oneself, which allows one to be open to the grace and mercy of God. This rule was brought to North Carolina on April 21st, 1876, as monks from St. Vincent Abbey, Latrobe, Pennsylvania, arrived to receive donated land which would become Belmont Abbey. It continues to inform the life and labors of the monks of Belmont Abbey and provides the foundation for the education offered by Belmont Abbey College. We're happy to pass it along to you now in the hope that this rule, which has provided a way of life for so many through the ages, may also show you a way of return to the Creator. And that is from Abbot Placid Solari, OSB, Belmont Abbey, Belmont, North Carolina. Okay. What did I want to bring about here? Sorry, there was something here. I love the definition of humility, that is a truthful knowledge of oneself, which allows one to be open to the grace and mercy of God. Lovely. The editor's note that this edition is to allow the rule to be made accessible to the modern reader. While the public domain English translation used is beautifully written, it can also be cumbersome to the modern ear, so they removed the these and thous, which is misspelled. It has these. That's not the kind of these they meant. There should be two E's and then the S at the end. Little silliness there. That's on Roman numeral page 15, if you're an editor looking at that. Then they had words, phrases, and sentences rephrased or restructured to temper the archaic tone that turns away too many readers. This, however, is not the challenge in editing a beautiful writing. The challenge is to retain the richness, that elegance that permeated the written English of an educated man 100 or even 50 years ago. So they tried to bring the glory of this given work to the eye and ear, and especially to the open mind of the contemporary. Okay, and so here's the rule. We've already read some sections. Some of them are very much bulleted points and with scripture references, right? Others are just regular old paragraphs, like, how do you celebrate Louds on Sundays? Which is interesting because most people don't even call it Louds anymore. This book has gotten rid of that term entirely. But this says, for Sunday's Louds, first Psalm 60 should be said plainly without an antiphon, then say Psalm 50 with an Alleluia, then Psalm 170 and Psalm 62, then the blessings and praises, one reading from Revelation said by heart, a responsory, a hymn, a versicle, and a canticle out of the gospel, and the litanies, and so conclude. I think the Benedictines of in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, from St. Vincent Abbey, that they actually use the monastic diurnal. I'm not 100% sure that that's what it's called, but I don't believe that they use this edition at all. I believe that they have their own book, and so that would already probably be done for them in their book. They would probably be able to turn to the page and see that, and so not have to look that up continually just to be sure they're doing it right, or to recreate that every week. So those sections are probably taken care of. Let's see here. Chapter 38, The Weekly Reader. This is on page 59. Reading should not cease while the brothers eat at table. Neither should anyone presume to read by picking up the book randomly, but let him who is appointed to read for the whole week enter upon his office on Sunday. After Mass and Communion, he should ask everyone to pray for him, that God may keep the spirit of pride away from him. Then this verse should be repeated 3 times in the oratory by all, the reader first beginning it. Lord, open my lips, and my mouth will proclaim your praise. It's from Psalm 51:17. And thus, having received a blessing, let him enter upon his duty. I did that side of the cross on my own. Apologies. I'm just used to it. The greatest silence will be kept so that no muttering or voice should be heard except the voice of the reader. The brothers should minister to each other as they eat and drink, so that no one need to ask for anything. Yet, should anything be wanted, ask for it by sign rather than a word. Neither should anyone presume to ask questions about what is being read or about anything else, lest occasion be given to the evil one. Should the superior, however, think fit, he may make some brief exhortation for the edification of the brothers. And the brother who is a reader for the week should take a little diluted wine before he begins to read, on account of Holy Communion, in case it is grievous for him to fast so long. Afterwards he should eat with the weekly officers and servers of the kitchen. The brothers should not read or sing in turns, but only for the sake of edifying the listeners. So pretty plain English, pretty easy to understand. Easy peasy. I hope you enjoyed that introduction. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask me about this edition, and I'll try and look them up for you, friends. May God bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the good Lord bless you. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.